Honorable Men Discord. What happened to Jim Carrey? Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's get straight to it. I have 3 things queued up. I came across this, and it seems that there are many people who don't believe that the man pictured above is Jim Carrey. So there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories on what they think happened to Jim Carrey. Now, some people are saying it's possible that he decided to get some work done on his face. And there's others that say the Jim Carrey that they remember most wouldn't have been the type to care about his facial appearance. If anything, they say if you look at some of his old interviews, he was super conscious, maybe overly conscious, if that's even such a thing. They would say that Jim Carrey was more about his awakening and sharing that with the world and sharing things about what's not so glamorous about being a celebrity, what's not so glamorous about being in the film industry. So for them, it doesn't make sense that someone who was outspoken about the ills of the film industry, they look at that as, why would he, on one hand, feel the need to expose the film industry and being a celebrity, Hollywood, so on and so forth, but then care about, doing work on his face. And I can understand why they take that angle. Then there's those that feel like he's a clone. Now, the clone theory, I don't know what to think about that. I'm not going to say that I don't think it's possible that people are cloned, because anything's possible at this point. It's not something that they would make it known because of the I'm sure people would come out and be against it because they feel like it's inhumane, it's playing God. But I'm not gonna say that it's impossible to clone someone. I'm not gonna go that far. I feel like the technology may be there to do it. But do I believe this is a clone? No. There's those that say his eyes don't look the same, which honestly I'd have to look at several pictures of Jim Carrey to say whether or not his eyes look the same or not. Just going off of these 2 photos, I don't see how his eyes look much different. And I don't know if it's a lighting thing, but it looks the same to me. Then there's others that say, well, Jim Carrey's left-handed and the gentleman who was in Paris was signing autographs with his right. I don't know how true that is. I'd leave that to you all in the comments to let me know if Jim Carrey is left-handed. I've never paid attention to something like that. But let's get into these 3 videos I have queued up, and I'll talk about it further.
Jim Carrey warned us that he's not here anymore, he hasn't been here for a while, and that he doesn't exist. Take a look at this clip that's going viral and tell me what you see in here.
I don't exist. So they're all characters that I played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. Jim Carrey was a less intentional character, right? Because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character. I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern.
This was done a few years ago, and this is classic Jim Carrey, guys. This is the kind of things he would say because most of the time he was trying to educate people about their egos. So he always spoke like this a little bit in riddles. But now people are looking at this with a more discerning eye, and they're saying, well, was that really it? Or was he directly telling us about all the technology and things going on in Hollywood and that he's not really here and that others are ready to take his place? Jim Carrey.
One thing I want to say about this as a possibility, and I'm leaning more towards this as a possibility. Is it just possible that when you're in the industry such as entertainment and you choose to stand alone on your island, stand alone on your beliefs, on your morals, your beliefs, morals, principles, is it possible you become ostracized, you become somewhat blackballed, you become someone who's targeted? Maybe there was threats made towards you. Jim Carrey, from what I saw from his previous interviews, which I'll get into this one right now, he knowingly and willingly decided to stand on his own, went against the masses. And the industry, the way it operates, and this is just how I observe the industry as an outsider observing the industry, if you go against the populace, everyone turns their back on you. Now, Jim Carrey, through his career, was able to position himself in a position where agreeing with people wouldn't matter because he was super successful. They couldn't stop that. But at the same time, it's a heavy load to take on, even if you willingly decide to take that route. And is it just possible that although some of us believe that he wouldn't do work on his face, is it possible that Jim Carrey, through his own doing, and I'm not saying he's wrong for it, because I can respect and appreciate anyone who goes against the regime. I'm not one of those people who applaud those that just follow the crowd. So let me make that clear. I'm not a fan of people that just follow the crowd because it's easier to follow the crowd and because you don't want to be singled out. I could actually applaud and respect a person like Jim Carrey that was willing to say certain things in front of large audiences. But what I'm saying is it possible that from doing that and bearing the weight of being alone in your thoughts and in your beliefs and standing firm on something you truly believe, is it possible that he went insane? He lost himself completely. I think he may have gone down a rabbit hole mentally where he's at a point of no return. It's also possible that during that speech in Paris, is it possible that he was on medication? That's what I get from it. I don't get that it's not Jim Carrey. Now, whether or not he's really left-handed and he was signing autographs with his right, that's a completely different story. If it's a fact that he's actually left-handed and he was signing things with his right, then the next question would be, and this is not to be naive, is he ambidextrous? I'm sorry if I said it incorrect, but is it possible that he can write with both hands? That's a possibility. You know, I mean, we're talking about someone who went up there and allegedly practiced his speech in French. I don't ever know of an interview. I don't recall of an interview that Jim Carrey had where he disclosed that he could speak multiple languages. Now, again, he said he practiced this in a separate video. I don't have that queued up. He said he practiced his speech in front of the crowd. He practiced his speech to give to the crowd in Paris. And I thought that was odd because it's one thing to remember a few lines. But then again, he's an actor. All right, so I'll give him that credit. But he did the whole entire thing in French. And it's not to say he couldn't have learned the language in his off time, but I thought that was a little bit odd. For some reason, that was the thing that stood out for me. I know that probably may not be what stood out for others. They're looking at his face, they're looking at how he signed an autograph, but the fact that he did the whole thing in French, I looked at that as like, And the other thing that stood out for me was that it seemed like he really enjoyed getting an award, where the Jim Carrey that I recall that would speak out against the ills of the industry wouldn't necessarily have been that impressed by an award. I don't think he would turn down the award. He obviously went to the award shows to accept these awards, but this version of Jim Carrey was a little too elated to receive an award, and I thought that was odd. So it's a combination of him speaking in French and his excitement and his odd joy for receiving the award. But let's get into the next two videos and then we'll wrap up.
Seriously ride a bike?
I do ride a bike, and I get out so early sometimes. I walk or I ride a bike, and I get out so early that I'm sometimes it's just me and the homeless people in Beverly Hills. And,
Right, that's
and
it.
the other day I walked, this guy came up to me and he said, "Hey, you're Jim Carrey, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "You got a new movie coming out, I heard." And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, enjoy it, because the world's going to end in 2026.
2026.
Try to get your kicks."
Yeah. Seriously ride a bike?
One thing I will say, and I'm going to get to this last thing I've queued up. One thing I will say is that comedians, and I've said this before, maybe not on this channel, comedians have a tough job. You spend your entire existence, and I mean the professional comedians that they make a livelihood out of this. You spend your I shouldn't say your entire existence, a large part of your existence, a large part of your professional existence entertaining people, but not just entertaining people with like your talent, but making people laugh. And the problem with that is you become a prisoner of that, because everyone just wants to, when they see you, they want to laugh. And in the real world, as we all know it, no one's laughing 24/7. We're dealing with bills, we're dealing with family, we're dealing with death, everything under the sun. And I think a lot of comedians have a breaking point in their life. We saw it with Chappelle. We saw it with Martin Lawrence some years ago. They said he was somewhere in the middle of the street waving a firearm. And Jim Carrey, at one point, he no longer wanted to do comedy. I remember there was a movie he did which is like a thriller or a horror. He was trying to do something else. He just got exhausted with constantly doing comedy. And believe it or not, again, as I mentioned when I started this, I think a lot of this played into how he possibly just lost his way, lost his mind. It's a combination of his occupation, his long career, his occupation as a comedian, entertaining people, and Living Color to the movies. It's the super success. He wasn't just mid-level. He wasn't a mid-level comedian actor. He made it to the Mount Rushmore. He's a megastar to a degree, and I don't think he wanted that. Not everybody wants that type of recognition. They might want to be acknowledged as one of the greats, but they don't necessarily want all that comes with that, the lack of privacy. And then you mix that with the fact that, emotionally, he may not have been emotionally stable, and all these things could make a person not be who you would expect them to be, which would explain the possible work he got done on his face, because he's lost his way. And I think that's more of what we're seeing. I don't think it's that it's a clone or it's not Jim Carrey. But again, the only caveat to me saying that would be whether or not he's a lefty. He's been doing a lot of things with his left hands. He's been in the past, as opposed to what people are saying now that he was signing autographs with his right. I never paid attention to that, so I can't speak on that. So let me just get into this last video, and then
I used to be a guy who was experiencing the world, and now I feel like the world and the universe experiencing a guy. Took on a pretty big challenge trying to do my speech in French. So, I wrote it and I researched it and I practiced it like crazy. But, it's, then I watched everybody like talking 1,000 miles an hour up there, receiving their awards. And I was like, I'm dead.
Are you retiring? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm going to watch some Mystery Science Theater reruns. About 25 years of them I missed. And, I'm going to be striving to be unexceptional. That's what I'm trying to do. Because I'm tired, frankly.
Right.
I was like a novice, but I felt a lot of love. And I felt a lot of appreciation that I tried. And what I said was true. Well, I'm retiring, but...
No.
Yeah, probably.
Are you being serious or are you screwing with me?
I'm being fairly serious. Yeah.
Really? Why?
It depends. It depends if the angels bring some sort of, script that's, written in gold ink that says to me that it's going to be really important for people to see, I might continue down the road, but I'm taking a break.
Is this about someone else?
My favorite funny face is the one I'm wearing right now.
Can it be that because he was in Paris, he spoke against the film industry? He chose not to speak against the film industry because he was in Paris. Is that a possibility? Or is it just that he's lost his way? I really can't call it, but I do believe that although it doesn't appear to some to be Jim Carrey, I believe that's Jim Carrey. I believe he got work done in his face. And I believe he's emotionally going through ups and downs. Again, because of the position that he chose to take, which I don't fault him for that. But he's been alone on speaking against some of the ills in the industry. And when you're alone and when you're alone among a group that generally goes with what's popular, it's a lonely place to be, and it could drive a person insane. So that's my thoughts on that. But what's yours? And as always, if you haven't, on your way out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And as always, stay honorable.